What's that?
They would issue the license yesterday?
Yeah, we should be able to pull it up. We
Okay,
should be able to pull it up.
that'd be great.
That way you can sign the car.
Yeah.
And you want to get people right here who sees last, but it's very expensive. Ta-da!
Nice, good deal. Perfect.
So when we get done with this class, we'll get with Debbie and make sure we've got the updated car documents. Those are the ones you have to fill out to go over to car and join
And
us.
lots of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yay.
I know there's some folks watching in, so we'll get started here in just a couple minutes. So I'm getting a handout for you right now. There should be some others. All right, looks like you and me initially. Pretty sure Yona's joining us, and Sarah was supposed to be here, but had babysitter issues.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll go ahead and get started because there are people watching, and then also we're recording it. So,
Yeah.
all right. So what we're talking about, this is kind of part 2 of. We did one last month, and we'll just kind of keep on working our way through these. But we're basically doing some classes on listing tips as well as buyer tips, and kind of working through them together. And that's interesting. Somehow this didn't. Maybe someone's once. Anyway, and for those of you that are watching, I sent Chris a email with these handouts, so look for that. But I realized that as we went through the first couple pages of the listings overview, there were a couple other pages that I probably should have spent some time on. And Meg, what we've got here, have they given you, have you gotten an email with the attachment of the roadmap for success?
I don't think I have yet.
Okay, so I'll get that for you after we get done today. Basically, it's about a 79-page document that we've incorporated all these classes and all the handouts and everything, so that anytime you have a question, it's all table of contents. So if you have questions about buyers or questions about listings or whatever, all that information is in there. And I'm trying to go through all of it in a class schedule 1, because I think it's good to continue to go over it. But 2, now that we're videoing the classes, people who can't get into the class for one reason or another, they can now watch these things and have the handouts and that kind of thing. And hopefully it's making a difference in regards to people know what's going on. But we talked last week doing some buyer tips, and I realized that I had a couple pages in here that were noted buyer and seller expectations. I just want to start there. Sarah, if you're here, I'm definitely going to talk a little bit about how to just talk about discount brokers and things like that. And we're also going to talk about hopefully get to today just about how we substantiate our commission. But when you look at this first page, and sellers are looking for us to provide, there's so many things that seller can find now online. Whether it be Zillow, whether it be Trulia, whether it be Realtor.com, whether it be the car MLS, there's just so many different places for people to tax information, going into their tax assessments and seeing what houses are assessed for. But what we still provide for them are things that they can't get. One, current market information. They may think they're getting all the current market information, but in fact, there's things happening on a daily basis. And when somebody says to you, "Hey, I'm thinking about selling my home," there's a lot of different homework that you can do that information that they got. But then our job is to make sense of that information. Our job is to take that information that they have, that we bring into the equation, and then make sense of it, and so that they can make an educated decision on price, on terms, on how long, when to put it on the market. Can I expect to get a contract and let me stay in it for a couple months because I'm building a house? All those kind of things. The second thing is net proceeds. We don't think about that, but we need to help the seller really know what kind of check they're going to get. And my rule of thumb is you take a price and you multiply it by 9%, and then you find out what their mortgage balance is, and that gives you a ballpark. It doesn't give you specifics, but it gives you a ballpark. So if I have a $500,000 sale, 9% of that's $45,000. That makes it $455,000. And say they have a $300,000 mortgage, they know they're going to get a check somewhere around $155,000.
Yeah.
That's important if they're going to use that money to buy something else.
Especially, yeah.
Because they need to know how much they're going to be able to bring into the next transaction. 9% is just the rule of thumb. I'd use it as a 6% commission, 3% to the listing agent, 3% to the buyer agent, and then additional 3% of other costs.
That makes sense. Yeah.
One of the things in regards to we talk about for sale by owners and we talk about discount brokers is the reason you want to split it up that way is you don't want the seller thinking about 6%, that you're getting 6%. It's almost you can draw a circle and make a pie and say, hey, there's 6% of this, but you need to know for us to get the best amount of traffic through your house or other agents, we need to offer 3% out to an agent who's bringing us a buyer. So technically, you're just paying me 3% or paying Royal 3%. We're paying another company to bring us a buyer, they're going to get 3%. And out of that 3% is going to be all the things that we have to do to market your house to get it sold. And that, oftentimes helps a seller understand that, oh, okay, so, you're not getting $30,000 in a $500,000 house, you're getting $15,000. And out of that 15, you're paying the advertising and you're doing this and you're doing that. And with that, what I would do is once you get a listing, you can reach out to Charlottesville Settlement Company or one of our preferred attorneys and say, hey, I'm getting this listing, and they're gonna use you when they get a contract. It's going to be $500,000. Hoping we're going to sell it for around $500,000. Can you give us a preliminary closure statement? And now you're getting it. You're getting it more succinct in regards to how much they really will net. if we're going to sell in the middle of the month or if we're going to sell at the end of the month, those make differences in regards to how much money they're going to end up, in their pocket. But one of the things you can do with that proceeds is ask them for their most recent mortgage statement.
Okay.
Because on a mortgage statement, it's going to say current, current loan amount. It originated at this, but now it's at this. The other thing you need to ask is, do you have a home equity line? Because they forget about that. Well, if they got a home equity line that's got, that they've taken $25,000 out of, well, they don't have a $300,000 mortgage. They have a $325,000 mortgage because you have to pay off the first and you have to pay off the second. Where will my listing be advertised? How am I going to market it? They're looking for us to tell them that. One of the things that you want to do is get with Chris, and there's information in this roadmap for success that talks about all the different places that we're advertising. We're spending a lot more time and energy and money in regards to online advertising, and that's where the targeted advertising comes in. The Facebook boosts that Chris is doing on open houses, he can take a property and know that it's in Waynesboro, and he can do a Facebook boost, and he can make sure that only people over in that area see it. So it's not just willy-nilly, we're putting something out there and not getting it to the right people.
It's the right target.
Yeah, so target advertising could be online. Target advertising could be that you've got a particular property, say, for instance, we have a spec home in Prophet Ridge right now that's for $800,000. And it's the Baker Butler, I think that's the name of it. Anyway, it's an elementary school right there on Prophet Road. And the people who live there, they love the school, but they want to move up. So target marketing would be into a neighborhood that, say, for instance, Montgomery Ridge or Bentivar, that houses are selling in the fives.
Yeah.
But they may want to move up to something bigger. So, you send, like you're doing an open house into Prophet Ridge, or you're going to do an open house for Prophet Ridge. So you send in an invitation, hey, come by and see the open house in Prophet Ridge, because it's a move-up buyer type of property for them.
Yeah.
Or, you could take any example. You could take a little house in off Old Brook, off of Royal Road, that's on the market for $350. You could send, information into, say, River Run, which are condo townhouses, who are looking, okay, we've liked it here, but we want something a little bit bigger now. That would be a target type of advertising. And those are things that other agents may not be doing, and that may make the difference as to why they choose you versus somebody else. An explanation of the selling process. This is what I call the safe islanding people. You have a process, and you're starting here in the fact that you're going to be getting their house listed, and then we're going to start marketing your house. We're going to do a broker open on a Tuesday. We're going to do an open house on a Sunday. I'm going to send information out to all the agents in the Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors and let them know that your house is on the market. We're going to do those things until we actually get a contract. And when we get a contract, we're going to negotiate that contract, hopefully to a point where it gets ratified. We're going to be involved in the home inspections and the radon inspections. We're going to make sure the buyer does what he needs to do to qualify for the loan. We're going to be there for the appraisal. We're going to make sure there's a termite inspection. And the point being is, there's just one thing after another, and you explain that to the seller that this is how it's all going to work. And we're going to get to certain places, and hopefully I will explain it to you well enough that there's never any surprises. And so, as an example, we may have a contract ratification, but we don't have an appraisal yet. So you haven't sold your house yet. So don't start thinking that it's sold. Once we get the appraisal and we know that they qualified for the loan, well, now we can start thinking about moving and what it's going to take to do that. They're looking for what they need to do to get it ready to sell. The advice that we can give people in regards to preparation and in regards to staging properties is critical. And one of the things I think is really important is when you first sit down with a seller, even at the listing presentation, even before they've signed the listing, asking the question, do I have permission to be totally honest with you? Because you want to give their permission, because you're going to talk about things that are hard. You're going to talk about the fact that there's too much furniture in this room. Or holy moly, I know you got a great family and all those pictures are great, but it's just so cluttered. We need to clean it up. We need to, simplify things so when people can come in, they can imagine what it's like for them to live there. And when they react, when they go, they get, frustrated like you're saying, they say, wait, Remember I asked you if I can be totally honest? I'm just providing my, again, professional opinion as to what it's going to take to get your house sold for the best price and the best terms. They're looking for us to provide a miracle. They want full price offers. They want more showings. And we need to talk them out of that. I need to talk them down out of that. Yeah, that would be great if we could do that. But right now it's July, and so the traffic is going to be a little slower. So we got to be really, specific about the people that are getting into your house, and hopefully one of them being interested in buying it. Being a voice of reason. One of the things I think is really important that the seller really needs is you may have not a great relationship with the other agent that's representing the buyer, and you may get into some, disagreements with that agent. The seller should never know about that. The seller should only know what they need to know in regards to effectuating the contract. If we start telling the seller about the trouble I'm having with another agent, well, now they're mad about that, and that just exacerbates it. So we need to be the voice of reason. We need to be the filter. The other agent may be just a total Looney Tune and it's causing all sorts of problems. Our job is to get it to settlement. So we hear all the problems, we hear this stuff, and then we communicate to the seller, hey, this is something that we need to be doing, to handle this particular situation. Realistic, as I just said, honest property valuations, communication, frequent feedback, and market updates. If there's one thing that we're not doing well as agents is communicating. We need to let the seller or let the buyer know when they're going to hear from us, and then they need to hear from us at that particular time. So it may be a situation with the seller that you say to them, I want to have a conversation with you, a 15, 20-minute conversation with you every week. And in that conversation, I want to go over who's shown your property and what kind of feedback I've got. I want to talk to you about what we've done in regards to marketing your property this week, what kind of feedback we've got. I want to talk to you about this possibility of marketing it this way, or maybe the 4th or 5th or 6th week we're going to talk about is it time to reduce the price. But the point being is, when would you like that conversation to happen? And then the seller says, well, Wednesdays is probably my best day. Okay, great. When on Wednesday is good? Well, I'm actually off on Wednesdays. Well, how about 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever? They say, yeah, that's great. Okay, I'm going to call you at 4 o'clock on Wednesdays, and we're going to get together. And then once a month, we'll get together face to face. And basically what you're doing is you're setting the expectation of what they can expect from you, versus them not knowing. And so when they're not hearing from you, they think this person's not doing their job. But on Wednesday at 4 o'clock, that phone rings. Hey, Meg, Michael, how's it going? Just wanted to touch base with you. We had a couple, 3 agents through this week. They didn't like the backyard, or, whatever. Or there's somebody that's pretty interested, but the wife isn't going to be here till next week, and then come back and see it. By the way, we've advertised it here. We've done this. I think it might be time for us to consider doing an open house. How does a week from Sunday look? That kind of thing. They want advocacy. They want your undivided loyalty, market knowledge beyond the MLS. And I think that's really critically important these days. It's not just the MLS. It's about private sales. We're having more and more people who are putting their house on Facebook or Zillow or whatever. They're selling it without an agent. And our job is to know an area well enough to know that those kind of things are happening, so that we can include that in our analysis of what they should be expecting. And that leads to guidance in pricing and marketing at home. Guidance and timing for marketing. Is now the right time? If I don't really have to sell, or should I wait till September, October? Data updating to substantiate the price and days on market for a property being marketed, statistical data. All of these kind of things are things that I think the seller's looking for. And then, here's the next page. Where should we spend our advertising dollars? Where do you think this particular property would be best marketed? If it's a retiree type of property, if it's something that it's a larger property, and so you might want to, let's say it's over $1 million and it's a farm, and you think somebody international might be interested. Well, then you're going to get with Chris, and you're talking about Luxury Portfolio. And Luxury Portfolio is part of the leading RE network, and it's a whole website for properties with $1 million or above. And that's that whole think globally, act globally. I think that's really supposed to say think globally, act locally. But again, there are all sorts of different places and places that people don't even think about. Hotels, B&Bs, guest houses. If you know people who are doing vacation rent by owner, a couple times a month, ask if you could put flyers in there in regards to information about particular properties. Because somebody may come here and fall in love with the place and say, boy, wouldn't we like to live here? And there's your flyer there. So if you have friends that are doing, vacation rent by owners and stuff, that's a great opportunity to put your information someplace where people are coming into town and may have never been to Charleston before and like it, and now they're looking to do something. Instead of them going online to find somebody, they've got your information and they contact you. Utilize the mailing list to a group that we're members of. Again, you can get with Chris or Mary, and they can send an email out about a new listing to all the agents in the Charleston Area Association of Realtors. If you're going to be doing an open house, they can send an open house email. You may have a group of friends. Don't be afraid to send any type of real estate information to your friends. Even if you know they're not ready to do anything, they may know somebody who knows. So you're holding an open house and you send it out, say, hey, I'm going to do this open house on Old Brook Road a week from Sunday. If you know anybody who's thinking about buying or selling, I'd love to meet them. Well, they may know somebody.
Yeah.
And they may not be in the market, but their friend may. And then, you can go through this as far as reasons to pick Roy Wheeler. We've written down a number of different things, how we should be educating the public about the real estate market. And we're doing a lot of that. If you get on our Facebook page and like that page, I'd go on to Facebook and find Roy Wheeler Realty Company. We've got all the different offices, but there's a company one. Probably got 2,700 followers now. But we're posting things in there all the time that are pertinent links for our clients. We post on the website. If you go to roywheeler.com and go up the top, there's, I think it's about or resources, whatever, there was a blog. And we're posting things all the time on that blog. And they're great links to different articles that you can actually copy and paste and send out to your friends. Say, hey, this is something you might be interested in reading about. Calling your sphere of influence at least 3 times a year with market updates. Even if they're not ready to sell, they own something, just to touch base on and say, hey, I just want to let you know that, a couple of houses are sold in your neighborhood and this is what they're selling for, blah, blah, blah. How do we convey the message? And again, you're seeing very examples there. And then, challenges in 2017, thankfully, there's more availability of funds than there has been. So that's great. The impact of short sales in the market is diminished. We have very few short sales anymore, although I ran across one just the other day. I think this is a key one, the uncertainty about which direction prices are going. Things were all going up, and I think it's kind of settled down a little bit and flattened out. And especially in different geographic areas, some areas are busier than others, but certain areas, like for instance, my neighborhood, everything's sold. And now there's 4 houses on the market, and there's been very little traffic over the last several weeks. Just like that. It was going like this, and all of a sudden it just flattened out.
Yeah.
And so that's the importance of knowing the market that you're listing a property in, so that you can really honestly say to them, hey, I know you've been reading about the fact that the market is really active, but your market has not been. The average days on market for the whole area is X, but yours is Y, and it's 2 months longer. The appreciation over here is 6%, but in your marketplace it's pretty flat. Nothing is sold for more than what the last one sold for, and whatever. So really understanding, and we can help with that. If you get a property that you're not sure, what we can do, and what we try to do is we'll set up what we call realtor tours, where 4 or 5 of the agents from here will go with you.
Okay.
Look at the house, give you information about the condition of the property, what they should do, but they'll also give you price guidance. I think this house is, one person is going to say, I think it's going to sell here, one person here, and all of a sudden you find that you've got a range. That you can go back and say, hey, have these people come in here. This is kind of the range of where I think we need to be. What do you think? Resistant desire of sellers to rent instead of sell, and buyers to rent instead of buy. There are sellers who are saying, maybe I'll just rent my property if I can't get it sold. Or buyers, it's happening all the time. People are still deciding to rent. First, I think it's much more important on the buyer side of this than sellers. There are just a lot of people who continue to think that renting is what they need to do. And that's why you're seeing this incredible influx of apartments being built in Charlottesville. Whereas in fact, for $1,200 or $1,500 a month, you can buy something, and get a USDA rural loan, which is 100% financing, and get the seller to help pay for closing costs and things like that. Absolutely a limited number of qualified buyers in particular price ranges. And then again, sellers refinancing and staying put rather than selling. And the reason they're doing that is they can't find what they're looking for. So they just decide, you know what, we're just going to stay right where we are. Now, in fact, the interest rates are going up. And if you didn't get a chance, Saturday, my radio show had the head of the Mortgage Bankers Association on. He said he thinks interest rates will go up slowly, but up to 4.5, maybe a little bit more than that by the end of the year. So the refinancing aspect is going away. Because if anybody refinanced in the last 3 years, they were probably in the 3s. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason to be refinancing at this point. And then, so far, the stock market has continued to increase, and that's created discretionary income. And so that's why you're seeing some of the more expensive properties or pieces of land selling, because people have made a fair amount of money in the stock market in the last year. They have this extra money, and now they're looking for a place to put it. But if anything happens and that stock market drops away, it could cause folks to put purchases on hold. So those are just a couple pages of, I think, really good information that you can kind of dig into. And as you dig into it, don't hesitate to ask me questions, and we can flesh it out even more. But a couple things I wanted to talk about before we really get into the point of listing appointment. We talked the last time in regards to why listings and that prospecting for listings will result in buyers as well. You can use the listing to generate more buyers and sellers. I really do believe that the agent and the company that has the listings controls the market, even if there are the entities out there like Zillow and Trulia and private companies who are taking your listings and referring buyers to you. The good news is that they're your listings, you're going to get paid. Mm-hmm. Regardless of who brings you the buyer, you're going to get paid. And so the agent and the company has listings, I think, really controls the market. And getting listings and getting them sold establishes a track record that'll give you credibility with the prospective client. But a couple things as it relates to listings, as we start getting opportunities to, have a chance to talk to people about listings, there's some challenges that I just wanted to spend some time on. And one is, again, this whole aspect of, why do I need a realtor? My friend put it on Facebook and sold it without a realtor being involved. I sold my house the last time without a realtor. Why do I need to use a realtor now? There's some significant challenges out there, and I think you have to be in a position of being able to really explain, to a person and educate them. We talk all the time about building rapport, gaining credibility, showing people we care. Well, the credibility comes in that we can explain to somebody why they should do something or why they shouldn't do something. And, a great example of this is somebody who thinks they can sell their house on their own. And the simple answer right now is, depending on where you live, you might be able to do that. You might be in a neighborhood where there's a lot of interest, and somebody sees this coming on the market and they jump at it. But what you don't understand is the effective pricing of that. So I just talked to her for several owners in the last couple of days, and I'll be surprised. It's a friend of mine. They're actually going to use a realtor in the fall. Unfortunately, not us, but they're going to use a realtor from my church this fall if their house doesn't sell. They bought a new house, and they think their house is worth a whole lot more than I think it's worth. I may be wrong, and I'll be the first to congratulate them. But that's one of the reasons that they need a realtor, because what's happening in this market is somebody who prices the house incorrectly, too high, their house languishes on the market. And then very quickly, agents start thinking, well, there must be something wrong with that house because it didn't sell right away.
there's an example. There's a house over on Rosehill Drive and Rugby Avenue, and it's a cute little house, little Cape Cod house, and I'm sure they've done wonderful things to it. But it's listed at like 625, and that neighborhood is just not a 625 neighborhood, especially for being on a corner of two busy streets. And it's now been on the market for 4 to 6 weeks, I bet. And that doesn't seem like a long time, but in this market, it can seem like a lifetime. And so one of the reasons that they really, when they say, well, I'm thinking about direct pricing, is, what I can do is really help you effectively price your house. And what happens oftentimes is if we can effectively price your house, there's a much better chance that you're going to get more for your house than you would for selling it on your own. And the reason being is you predetermine what price you think your house is worth, and the market may bear a lot more than that. The other thing that's critically important is that most folks who are thinking about selling a house on their own minimize all the things. And in this handout that I gave today, and this is another great thing to provide for somebody, they minimize all the things that a realtor does. And so we've got a list in here of 178 different things that we do. If you keep on going back through there, it's there, but there are 178 different things, and that's probably not all of them, but 178 different things that we do in the course.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that we do in the course of marketing their house to get it sold and representing them through to closing.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 2 friends this summer who sold their houses privately, and they came back to me later and said, we really should have gone through you. Because we think we probably could have gotten more money, which would have paid for a lot of the commission, and we would have had representation. Whereas instead, we were having to do stuff that we had no idea, had no clue as to how to do it. And we were having to come to you to ask for advice, even though we weren't using you, and we felt bad about that. And I said, well, that's what friends are for. But I think one of the big things that we have to really work at in regards to dealing with our sphere of influence and the people that we're counting on to refer business to us is we need to continually be able to tell them why we are of value.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I've learned over the last couple months, unfortunately, is that people just don't see what we do as valuable. Especially right now where people can put their house on the market and sell quickly and that kind of thing. They don't understand all the other things we're going to do to make that transaction or that process smooth. And I've had 2 different people recently say, well, why shouldn't I do this and save the commission? And it's almost like they forget that they're talking to me, who's a realtor, because basically what they're saying is what you do isn't worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to have somebody like you to help us. Which in fact, I believe they need us now more than ever, because there's just so many different nuances of what's going on. But in regards to discount brokers, and Sarah, I don't know if you're watching, but hopefully you are, because it's going to tell you that I remember to talk about this. When you're going after a listing and the people are going to list, but they're going to list with a discount broker. And a discount broker basically is another term for what you would call limited service agent. And what a limited service agent is that, okay, I'm just going to charge you X amount to put it in the MLS, put a lockbox on the door, put a sign in the yard, but then I'm done. People are going to call you, they're going to make appointments. You're going to want to make sure they get pre-qualified. If they write a contract, you're going to be the one that looks at that to see if it's something that you want to do. So basically what they do, this goes back full circle to what we were talking about earlier. If you can get the seller understanding that it's not 6%, it's 3%. One of the big hurdles in talking to a discount broker gets taken care of right away, because most sellers who are thinking about being going with a discount broker, they think that they're doing it to save 3%.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, what they're doing is they're putting themselves in a position to offer 3% out to another buyer, and that agent's going to bring you a contract, but that agent's representing the buyer. not representing the seller. And so they're going to negotiate for all they're worth to get the price down to a price that the buyer is willing to pay. And without representation on the seller side, there's a good chance that you're going to lose money versus save money. What I mean by that is, let's just take that $500,000 listing amount again for a minute. Somebody lists their house at $500,000, and they go to a discount broker, and they're offering 3% out to the buyer agent. Well, there's $15,000 right there that they've already agreed to spend. But the buyer agent is going to negotiate, and let's just for the sake of discussion, the buyer negotiates a 4% list price to sales price ratio. So 4% of $500,000 is $20,000. So they sell the house for $480,000. But because of you knowing the stuff and representing the seller, you may have gotten them to only reduce by 2%. And then you may have gotten them to sell that house at $490,000 versus $480,000. So $10,000 is something that they didn't have, and now it's going towards your commission. So for in that example, the agent, the seller really only is paying $5,000 to have you represent them and do all the things that they need you to do to represent them to a successful closing. And so you take that $500,000, you got the 3% going out to the buyer agent. You explain to them, and this is one of the things, Sarah, I said in my email yesterday, do an MLS analysis around, whether it be around a high school district or around a zip code or whatever, and find the discount brokers that listings have sold. And what you're going to see in most situations is days on market are going to be longer, and the list price to sales price ratio is going to be bigger than a full service real estate company. And the reason, again, being is the seller's not being represented, and so the buyer agent is able to negotiate them down. The seller may not have the same information that they need to negotiate well. And if you can run that analysis and then sit in front of a seller and say, I understand you're thinking about using this company, but let me just show you something. Here are full service, not just our company, but full service brokers in the area. And days on market are 38. And the list price to sales price ratio is 97. Okay. Now here are the discount brokers in the area. The days on market are 65. And the list price to sales price ratio is 6%. If you can do those analysis and then substantiate what you're talking about, that's a powerful tool, because you're showing them you're not going to save money, you're going to lose money. It's going to take longer, and you may sell it for less than if you work with me. The same thing with a for sale by owner. When you're talking to for sale by owners, I just think it's really important to just not be afraid to contact a for sale by owner and just start a conversation. Hey, I see that you're trying to sell your house on your own. I'm a realtor who specializes in your marketplace, and I really like to know everything that's going on. Is there a time I can come by and just take a walk through to see your house, to see if I might know somebody who'd be interested in buying it? Well, but we're not going to list. I understand you're not going to list it. And what I'd like to do is tell you that I'm happy to help you in whatever way I can get your house sold without using a realtor. Would that be helpful to you? Yeah, but why would you do that? Well, I do it because I like to know what's going on in the marketplace, but I also do it that should you ever decide to use a realtor, that what I'd like to do is earn the right to be a realtor that you can call to at least hear about how I would go about marketing your house. No pressure. But if you get to that place, I hope the things that I will provide you over the next certain amount of time will earn that right to have that opportunity. And in most situations, they're really grateful because they realize that you're really doing that. And I'm in a conversation with a neighbor in my neighborhood who's got their house on the market as a for sale by owner, and get in touch with her. I've sent my podcast on, if you're thinking about selling your house yourself, listen to this first, give you tips, that kind of thing. And she emailed back, said, "Boy, I really appreciate that. I listened to it. It was really helpful." We marketed it because they're offering a 3% commission to a buyer agent. So far, Royal Builders is the only company that's shown their property. So I think there's a very good chance that at some point that house will come to market, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to them about about listing it. But anyway, that all of us can do that, and it's just about building relationships with people, building rapport, gaining credibility, have a system in place to show you care. So you build rapport with that for sale buyer, you go and visit with them, you gain credibility by knowing the market and knowing, tell them that they should talk to, to Jay Dominic, who's our Movement Mortgage Loan Officer, and Jay can provide them information in regards to getting people pre-qualified if they're interested in the house. You can provide them a list of attorneys in the area that if they are able to sell it without agents being involved, these are attorneys that can help draw up the contract for you. These are people that we use, that we trust, that we recommend, and you're just providing them, things that they should do, to market the house. So, anyway, but again, whether it be a for sale owner or whether it be a discount broker, making that pie and making them, if the for sale owner is already saying, I'm willing to pay 3%, you're halfway there. You maybe be 70% of the way there of ultimately convincing them to list because, hey, you're already paying the 3. If you'll let me list the property and I can start doing this marketing for you, we're going to increase the traffic. There's a better opportunity that we're going to get the right kind of buyer in here that's pre-qualified, and I'm going to help pre-qualify, and we're going to negotiate a price that ultimately, maybe it's not equal to the 3%, but it's close to it, and you've got me working for you. You've got me representing you versus an agent coming in with a buyer and you not having any representation. Now it's a professional against you who don't really know, what you're doing. So anyway, that's just some information that hopefully is helpful. Another thing, and this is in the handout, and it's also in the roadmap for success. When you're sitting down with a seller, have questions. Especially if it's front and back, so maybe the back.
What page is
It's page 39. If you know that they're interviewing other agents, then what you want to do is you want to put together a list of agent interviews to leave with them. It'll be on the back.
okay.
See, it's front and back. Here, keep on. It's right there.
I think that's right.
No, keep on. You're almost there.
Okay.
There you go. So what you're going to do is, and obviously this is just a template of questions, but you may not do some of these things, so obviously you don't want to leave that question. But the point of this is you're going to go through your listing presentation, and you're going to explain all the things that you and Roy Wheeler are going to do to get their house sold. And then you're going to leave this behind at the end of the presentation. Look, I know you're going to be talking to other agents. And I just thought this would be helpful here. I've put together a list of questions that I hopefully have answered for you today, and that you should be asking every agent. And what you're doing is you've got things in here that you've answered affirmatively. That our company ranks very high in market share. You tell them how many houses we have listed. I mean, we're running an ad right now in the newspaper where I think we have 50 houses that are listed between 250 and 400,000. So, how many homes do you have listed? Why are you with your current company? May I see your 90-day marketing plan? And again, if you don't have a 90-day marketing plan, don't make this one of your questions. But in your roadmap for success, we've got an 8-week plan for sales. You can just take that. So you change that from 90 days to 60 days, and you're going to show that to them. If you list with me, these are the things I'm going to do for you. And these questions are ones that you want them to ask the other agents, because there's a very good chance that these agents have never had these questions asked before, and they're not going to be prepared to answer them. And so it's going to kind of discombobulate them out of their own presentation, because now the seller is asking questions that they don't have the answers to, or the answers, they may be a company that doesn't have a strong market share. They don't have many listings, or they don't have a 90-day marketing plan, or haven't done, don't do broker. Whatever the case may be, what you want to do is you want the questions to be things that you've answered affirmatively, so that when they're talking to another agent, the other agent says, well, I don't really know what advertising strategy is, or I'll have to get back to you. What that does is it diminishes their credibility and it lifts up your credibility. Gosh, this other agent, boy, they had all these things knocked off, and
exactly as they presented all these things to us. So, and again, these are just questions, and Yona, I know you're listening in. As you look at this, if there are other questions that we should be adding to this, we can obviously shrink the font size and add different questions. But I think the key is that this is a template, and use the questions that you know the answers to, or you should be able to find the answers to. If you don't know, check with the owner and name. We're happy to get them for you. But 2, use questions that you're going to use in regards to marketing listings, but at the same time, have this available to the sellers so that, and hopefully that'll be helpful. The next thing in the packet is a marketing checklist. And Barb Kelly, I don't know if you're on with us online this morning, but this is something we were talking about the other day in regards to a marketing checklist. Once I get a listing, what are the different types of things I need to do? Well, again, I'm going to enter it in the MLS. I'm going to get a listing office agent tour going. I'm going to get toured by other agents, get Chris to design a flyer. I'm going to get X amount of flyers printed. I'm going to get the flyer mailed or emailed to my sphere of influence. I'm going to get a brochure designed by Mary or Megan or whoever you want to use. And I'm going to get some of those printed for the house. Some of you want to order one of those brochure boxes for the front of the signs. And then again, I think the thing a lot of people don't do is everybody's so involved in the email distribution. What I would do is when I get a listing, if I got a listing, say in, Forest Lakes, as an example. One of the first things I do is I would go into the MLS and I would search the last 6 months to a year as to who's listed and sold properties and who the buyer agent was, who the agent was that brought the buyers on those. You can search that, and you can, once you get in the car and get into the MLS, you'll learn how to do this. You can customize it, and it'll just print out the listing agents, the selling agents, where the property was. And then what I would do is, you certainly do the blast, the email blast, because that's easy. And then what I would do is I would get X amount of brochures done, and I would literally either mail or I would hand deliver those brochures to those agents in those offices. Because what it says is those agents are doing business in Forest Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, again, a way to show that you're different in regards to your listing presentation. When you're showing them what you're going to do once they list a property, you say, hey, I'm going to get some brochures printed. And I'm going to place them in your home. I'm going to put them in a mailbox. But I'm also going to mail or hand deliver the same brochure to the agents that are doing business in your marketplace, because there's a very good chance that they have a buyer that didn't buy their listing that they had on market, or the agent who likes Forest Lakes is going to bring another buyer to that area, and them getting something at their office, hard copy or mail, versus just getting email. Emails, I think, kind of get lost. There's so many of them now that we got to do things different that ours stands out versus somebody else's. You might, again, postcards. It doesn't say brochures on here, but postcards. Chris can create postcards for you, just listed, with the address and information about the property, and you can actually mail that into a zoned area. You can either do it, if you're doing a geographic farm, it's an area that you're trying to specialize in, or you can do what the United States Postal Service calls Every Door Direct.
Mm-hmm.
And what that is it's 17 cents. And you mail it to a carrier route. So in other words, I live in Still Meadow, and there are a couple other streets that are on that. So maybe like 300 homes that are in that carrier route. That mailman may have a couple carrier routes, but there's one carrier route, 300 times 17 cents. It's like $51.
Yeah.
It's very reasonable to mark it out. And again, if I can tell a seller that I'm going to get these brochures made, I'm going to hand deliver them and mail them to these agents, and then I'm going to have a postcard made, and I'm going to deliver it into this neighborhood that I think is a move-up buyer neighborhood for yours. And I get the listing because of those two things. That $51 was really well spent.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because if I had, maybe that's the thing that got me the listing not, and the house is going to sell for $400,000, and it's 3%. So it's it's $12,000. That's a
a lot of money that's going to be earned, and because of 1 or 2 or 3 of these things, that's why I got the listing versus I didn't. Visual tours, the same thing. That I'm going to do a visual tour of your property. I'm going to have drone photography done on your property. Yes, it's going to cost you X amount. And by the way, folks, who are listening in, we're real close to having kind of a on-staff photographer here at our company. It's a gal that is doing photography. Chris is just waiting on the getting her photo portfolio now so we can see her work. It's going to be very reasonable. She's going to be on call for our agents to do properties, and she'll go everywhere. So very reasonably priced way of getting photography done. But again, on certain properties, the drone photography, especially if it's in a neighborhood where you're drone photography of the house, but you're also going down the street and hovering over the community pool and tennis courts and whatever, you post that on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever, the amount of hits, because there's a video along with it, is just unbelievable. And the bottom line is, it may not be what sells the property, but it may be what gets you the listing. You know, oh, you're going to do that for us. Our house is only X amount. Yes, I'm going to do it because I believe it makes a difference in the way we market your home. If that's what gets me the listing, then that's money well spent. And again, Roy-Wheeler's doing their best to negotiate those prices down as much as we can so we can make it as reasonable for the agents as possible. You may have corporate clients. You may know people who work in an HR department in a particular business in town. You know, mail some stuff to them and say, you know, could you post this, or could you leave these in the snack area? Or if I send you a flyer, can you post it on the company bulletin board? Or there's some companies that have their own intranet site, and they may have a place where you post, and it doesn't hurt to ask. Do you have any place that in your company website that people can go and get information about the area? I would love to be able to have my flyer be one of the things that's posted about a house that's on the market and is within walking distance of the company, or within a 10-minute drive, or whatever the case may be. Obviously you're going to set up open houses. Now again, that's only if a house it's a good place to hold an open house. There are houses that just should never have an open house. They're too far out and out of the way, and nobody's ever going to get to them, or they're in lousy condition, or they're just different reasons why you wouldn't want to do an open house there. And again, that's going back from the very beginning. That's where you're taking control of your seller and you're explaining to them, I'm really excited about marketing this property for you, but an open house is not going to be one of the things we're going to do. We're going to spend that time and energy in a different place, because it would be a waste of your time to be out of your house, and we're just not going to get the traffic that we need to get. We're going to write copy for advertising. We're going to get advertising placed, and then we're going to do other marketing. Just gives you, this is just a snapshot of some of the things you can do. I'd encourage you to get with Chris in regards to Facebook boosting, in regards to the postcards, the Every Door Direct. There's just a number of different things that we're doing. And by the way, as we're talking about listing presentation, I talked about this the last time. Chris has created a brand new online listing presentation tool where there's a link, and you can get with Chris, and Chris can actually personalize it. So there's these little bubbles, and why Roy-Wheeler, and blah, blah, blah. And you click on it, and things pop up, and it gives you the things that you want to talk about to the seller. And then you get through that one, you click on the next one, and it opens it up. So you can be sitting around this desk with somebody with your iPad or with a computer, and you could be going through this with them versus having hard copy paper. Or they may be from out of town, and you can send them a link. And then you can say, okay, I'm going to call you today at 4 o'clock, and we're going to go through this. And they could be looking at it, and you can click, and you can even subscribe to a thing like GoToMeeting. And you can literally take control of their computer with their permission. And you can be pointing and clicking and having it go there. And now Chris has worked it out so you can personalize it. So the 5 different bubbles, but the other one would be about Michael Mir, or Smith, or Sir Paczynski, or whoever it might be, and about whatever you want to have in that to tell them why you're the person that they would want in regards to listing and selling their home. So the last thing I want to do, in just the last couple minutes, is talk real quickly, and we'll talk more about this the next time, in working hard not to discount yourself. I know it's tough out there, and I know that there are a lot of people saying, well, will you do it for less? And again, you've got to be really, really ready to answer why you won't. And a couple of things that I think are really important is one, if you're going to reduce your commission, which is yours and the company's money, how much quicker are you going to be to negotiate the seller's money away? So when the seller says, will you reduce your commission? I say, I really can't. And the reason being, again, we're going to charge you 6%. But let's again remember that cutting that in half. Half of it's coming over here. I don't get that. And now there's only half of it left. And out of that half, we just went through this checklist of the many things that I'm going to do for you, which all cost money, and advertising and brochures and online marketing and all those kind of things, and all those kind of things we need to do to make sure you market your house properly to get the right people in. And if I'm to, one of the things that people will say, and you can say this to people because other people are going to say it, some folks will say, yeah, I'll reduce my commission, but I'm going to split it with the buyer agent. So in other words, I'm going to reduce it to 5%, but I'm only going to offer 2.5% out to the buyer agent. But what you're going to say to the seller is that Royal doesn't do that. We're going to discount our commission. It's going to come off our side because it would be a disservice to you for us to offer less than 3% out of the marketplace, because there are a lot of other listings out there that are offering at least 3%, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to be offering less is going to reduce the traffic, because agents are going to show properties where they can make more money. It's just a simple fact. And so all of these things we're going to do, and it's on our side, that the buyer agent doesn't pay for any of these things, we pay for them. But the other part of it is that, just as I said before, is the fact that I believe that I'm worth what you're going to pay me. I'm going to market your house right. I'm going to get you the best price possible. We're going to make the transaction as smooth as we can, and I'm going to earn that commission. And I believe in that. And it's my money to pay my bills, to gas for my car, insurance, all those kind of things. And so I really feel strongly about the fact that I'm going to earn this money. And again, the point being is, if I was to reduce what I think I'm worth, and then we start getting a negotiation about somebody wanting for you to sell your house for less than we think it's worth, aren't you going to be kind of doubtful about me hanging in there and fighting for your money when I didn't fight for my own?
Yeah.
And, it shows that I'm not going to negotiate in the best way. And then the other one that I like to use is, talking to people and say, what do you do for a living? I'm a project manager. Okay, great. And you're with Merkle. That's super. Well, let me ask you a question. What if your boss came to you, Meg, and said, Meg, you've done such a great job, and we've got this new contract, and we really believe you're the one that needs to lead that project. And so we're going to make you the project manager for that. How would that make you feel? Well, it made me feel great.
Mm-hmm.
However, for you to be the project manager for that, we need you to take a third pay cut. How would that make you feel? Wouldn't make you feel good. Well, that's basically what you're asking me to do right now. You're saying I'm the person to do the job for you, to market your house to get it sold. But you wanted me to reduce my commission, my 3% commission by X amount. So you're saying, yeah, you're the one we want.
Yeah.
You're the person who I think can get it done, and yet you're asking me to do it for less. And I don't think it would make you feel good, and it certainly doesn't make me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that oftentimes gets their attention. Say, you know what, I never even thought about it that way. The last thing is getting them to focus not on the commission, but the bottom line, the net proceeds that we talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
This is about getting you your best price. And I believe if we do it well, and you use me, that you're going to sell your house for more than you would with somebody else. And if you sell it for more, even though you're paying your commission, your net proceeds are going to be higher. So that's another thing. And then lastly, as it relates to, well, you're going to help me buy another house. So why won't you discount this? Well, first of all, it's two different transactions. I'm going to help you over here buy this house. I'm going to do everything I need to do to make that go well. And I'm going to list your house and get it sold. I'm going to do everything I can to do over here. So it's two different things. It's not like the time is less.
Yeah.
It's two separate transactions. However, if it really comes down to that and they're going to choose somebody else over you, because the other company is willing to reduce their commission because they're going to buy something else. What I recommend is that you get a 6% listing commission.
Mhm.
You're offering 3% out every year. And then when they buy the next house, when that closes, we rebate them a percentage of the listing. So in other words, we got our 6% listing, so if for some reason they never buy something else,
Mhm.
I haven't reduced my commission. But I've also taken a 6% commission, but I'm going to rebate from the buyer's side of my next transaction. X. So let's say, for instance, somebody buys a $400,000 house, or lists a $400,000 house. So that'd be $12,000, and we get the $12,000. But then they go and buy a $600,000 house.
Mhm.
What we do out of the commission on the $600,000 house, we rebate them a
Back.
0.5%, like $2,000 or 4%, $4,000.
So like a credit.
A credit back.
Okay.
And what that does is it keeps them obligated to you in both transactions versus just reducing the commission. Tying the two together is really important. All right, 11:03. Thank you guys for your time. Nick, thanks for being here in person. Whoever's online, thank you for being here. And
Thank you,
see
Michael.
next time.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, Michael.